Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to another show on the Sports Music and Life podcast. Welcome to another show. Today I'm going to be covering about the boxing. There was a lot of boxing over the weekend. You had Josh Kelly, you had Opitaya, you had Fabio Wardley, Callum Simpson, both fighting at their home football grounds that they support, football teams that they support. I'm going to cover the undercard of Fabio Wardley because that was the fight I watched over the weekend. But I did watch Callum Simpson the next day, so I'll go through that round by round as I did. But let's start with Josh Kelly, who got an early round knockout win. He's gone and he's called out Conor Benn. That fight was in the making years ago, or a few years ago, when they were both under Eddie Hearn at Matchroom. Nothing really ever come of that fight. Josh Kelly leaving Matchroom. It's nice to see Josh Kelly getting down to the boxing business now, not being so cocky and arrogant anymore, and showboating so much now, because he's definitely a great boxer, a lot of skills in there, but he just got too involved with the showboating and not getting down to business, and he ended up coming unstuck in one of his fights because of that. But it seems like he's matured now and he's boxing better. Well, not boxing better, but he's actually boxing and not showboating. So that'd be a tough fight for Conor Benn if that materialises, but we will see what happens in the future. So well done for Josh Kelly getting your early round knockout there. So we had Callum Simpson. He had a fight with Zuko, and that was at Barnsley's football ground, another stadium fight. So so Callum Simpson. He went down as usual. I'll go through the notes of what I've wrote for the round, and we'll go from there. So round one, Callum Simpson went down early. He wasn't hurt. He just got caught a bit cold, but he got down to business. It was an action-packed round. Without the knockdown, Callum Simpson could have gone on to win that round. Another action-packed round in round two again. Both fighters were going toe to toe. Zuko put in a lot into it too, and Callum Simpson was sort of smothering his work a bit through this fight. When he sat back, he looked a better fighter and used his range, but maybe in the tactics was to stop Zuko getting at him a bit more, because Zuko was game in this fight. Let's just have a little look at the notes. Very close rounds they were to start with. We're going to round four. Down to action, these two lads. Simpson, the game's getting up close. Trying to find a home for the uppercut. Suko was matching him and firing him back. He did back off. He did back off at one point, and Simpson looking a better fighter when he kept his range, like I said earlier. So into round five. So this is a bit more of a quieter round. I sort of started to notice Zuko was getting a bit tired at this point. He had put a hell of a lot into the early rounds, and he put a lot into them early rounds. So and Simpson was starting to look like the fighter that was in control. And like I say, Zuko was starting to look tired. So in round six, Zuko came out firing. At the start of round six, he must have found a bit of energy or had a bit of a telling off in the corner. Started to look tired again though, but as it went on, so maybe he put too much into them rounds and started to look tired. And then Simpson finished the fight of the round stronger. It was much more of the same, the pattern for which I found for a lot of these fights over the weekend, and the round's a bit repetitive to how the fight was going. Not that they were rubbish fights, or not that they were good fights, but that is what I found. So what round are we on to now? Yeah, I found Zuko's starting to drift into the corner quite a bit too. In this fight, and that sort of come back to bite him on the arse later on in the fight. So going into round 8, so Zuko went down, but it wasn't. There was punches there, but I don't think it was. I think it's more tight legs that he went down with, really, with that. If in my opinion, in that it's more the tired legs that made him go down. And Zuko was starting to miss a lot at this point too. Another dominant round from Simpson. He was well in control in his fight. He was landing more punches. What I did like was the tippy tappy, and then he'd plant his feet and start to really let them punches go. And he unloaded a variety of punches once he put his feet down. So it's sort of the tippy tappy was just setting up for the big shots. And then to round 10, Simpson again, he pinned Zuko in the corner, and the uppercut started to land, and Simpson went on to finish him. Simpson went down twice in that fight too, but they were only flash knockdowns. There wasn't nothing. He was never really hurt from them. So yeah, that was a good fight, good performance from Simpson. And Zuko, he put his side into that fight too, and that was a good fight. So right, I'll move on to the Fabio Wardley undercard, and Heiser versus Coot was the heavyweight to start the fight. I think I pronounced that right. Sorry if I haven't. But Heiser, he was getting behind his jab very well in the early round, and he had a bit of power to him. Karut, I think that's how you pronounce his name, or you have to forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. He was more like a journeyman, I must say. He'd been in there with some top fighters, but never really materialised into anything. And Heiser was starting to control that fight. He landed some big shots, and by round 2, the fight was done. He catching Karut on the side of the head, and he didn't want any more from that. So that could be a potential fight for Moses Vitoma, but I am hearing Moses Vitoma is in talks to be fighting Dylan White. Now that'd be an interesting fight, because Dylan White will be landing that big shot on Itoma, but we'll get into that fight if that ever gets announced. So the next up on the Fabio Wardley undercard, and fight number 2 was a local lad from Ipswich. His name is Jack Williams. He was up against a journeyman from Valdez, who come over from Argentina. He was a journeyman, and it was a good start from Williams. He showed good variety of punches, landed some lovely shots, combinations, using the ring very well. So it was something to be looking at, and something for interesting in the future to be looking at. And Williams was really looking sharp too in this fight, and punching well off the back foot. And with a bit of spite in his punches too, and he was quite an impressive lad to watch. Like I say, he was fighting a journeyman, but all these fighters have to fight the journeyman to make it on the level, up the level. Sorry. So got round 3, another good round. Sorry, much the same as the early rounds, and using the ring really well and picking his punches well too. So we're going into round 4. Really impressed by Jack Williams. Definitely one to be looking at for the future. And let's see how he moves on as he goes up the levels. And it was nice for him to have a nice home fight in front of people, in front of sort of his home crowd, because he's coming from Ipswich and that. So certainly one to look for the future. So next up we had Stephen Ward versus Mike Perez. Mike Perez is fighting out of Ireland now, but he's from Cuba, I believe they said in the commentary. So well-schooled amateur background coming from Cuba. So Perez got straight into it. He was throwing big shots, looking the more aggressor, and Ward was getting behind his jab a bit. And I thought Ward was a bit of a slow starter. Again, so round 2, like I said earlier, much of his fights was much the same. So, and Perez was much the same. He upped the tempo in this round 2. Perez, Ward still. So Perez was still being the aggressor. Ward behind the jab, throwing a few combinations. So he sort of started warming up into round 3. That's when he started to come into the fight a bit more, I found, Ward, and he was getting behind his jab and he was using his combinations. He had great ring movement, really good footwork, and again, much the same. Again, Perez has slowed down a bit, and I did think Perez was going to start tiring and Ward will go on to later to nick the fight, but as we get on, we'll see that didn't happen. And again, you see much the same from Perez. It was aggressive and throwing some big shot in. Ward started to put his foot on the gas in this round, getting behind the jab and moving well, so starting to throw combination punches and moving again. And round 6, big shots coming from Perez. Ward took them well. He didn't look phased by him at this point. He thought the ref called break. He didn't, and Perez went to work, so it could have been a bit dangerous for him there. So, going into round 7, Perez was still being the aggressor, although Ward was starting to let his hands go more, which was nice to see. Ward started to let his hands go more. I was thinking maybe in Ward's plan that Perez would tire himself out, and in the second half of the fight, that's when Ward will come really into the fight. But wasn't doing enough. I got down there and getting a cut above his getting a cut above his eye in that round. So round 8, nice hook an uppercut puts Ward out. So Perez comes out. He does a hook into the uppercut, puts Ward down. And down again, he goes from relentless punches from Perez. And at the end of the round, Jamie Moore said like he was going to give him one more try because he was getting bashed up a bit. And then by round 9, the same has happened. Ward goes down with a body shot and a towel come in, and that was the end up of that fight. So the next fight up was a good little fight, a good little up and coming fighter, and that was our Paris bronze Olympic boxing medalist champion, and that is Lewis Richardson, coming from Colchester, so not too far from Ipswich, so it's sort of a home fight for him. And he's going to be really impressive to watch. So he had a great crowd there to watch him too. I do think I thought he'd done enough to go on to fight for the gold medal fight in that Olympics, but he didn't get it. But he came away with bronze, so it's a very proud moment. He was the only boxer to come away with a medal from them Olympics. So getting into round 1, he showed his hand speed. He had really good hand speed. On the commentary, they were saying that you could see he still had his amateur techniques there, and as you go on, he would start to sit down on his punches, and he really had some really quick speed, and there was spite behind his punches, but it was more the speed that was admiring from Lewis Richardson in this fight. And another good round, like I've got in round 2, the hand speed with more spite and a great variety of punches that he had, and he had great boxing ability, which you would tend to think for people that are coming from the amateur background. So I didn't really write much more notes about it because it was very much the same. Lewis Richardson using his hand speed. The lad he was fighting was a tough lad, tough journeyman, and this was a 6 rounder, and I think it was more for Lewis Richardson getting used to the pro debut, and eventually he will find his style. He's obviously going to be very quick, like I said, and if he started getting some spite behind him punches and bringing in the power and sitting down on his shots, I think he could be causing a lot of damage. So he could be one for the future for us to watch and get behind. Now, the next up was a lightweight fight. It was O'Leary versus Dillon. Seen Dillon fight before. He's a very tough lad. He's very game, and this is for a European title. Dillon coming up 2 weights, I believe. What Cole Frampton said I believe he come up 2 weights. He definitely went up 1 weight, I know, but I'm sure it was 2 weights. So it was a good first round. Both fighters getting down to the business, working each other out, but throwing their punches and seeing where they can land, see what the angles they come at, and what not. Another good round from both fighters. O'Leary landing the better punches and Dillian having success in his times himself. So he was finding his success, Dillian. But the better fighter was certainly looking like O'Leary. He had the better class, the better variety of punches, and he was landing some menacing punches to the body. Dillian took them all. This is another fight that I was writing round by round, but the pattern became the same thing, and I didn't really see the point to keep going over and saying the same thing. But one thing I will say is Dillian was a very tough lad, and at times in this fight he had his success, and he was taking some big body shots, and the body shots are not nice ones to take. And fair play to Dillian. And O'Leary was just a level above him, and he's a really good boxer to watch. O'Leary, I must say, really enjoyable to watch. So he won the European title that night, you know, and all credit to Dillian. You know, I believe he was a British champion, and he wanted to. Would have just been happy winning a Southern Area belt. But he went on to win a British title and challenge for a European title, so fair play to him. And it was a good fight again, but it was very much the same. And so let's move on to the Fabio Wardley fight. Now, I didn't know much about Hunini. I didn't believe I'd seen him before, but it turns out I did. I can't remember what undercard I see him on. And when I watched the highlights too of the fight, I didn't think much of him. I thought Fabio Wardley could blow him away here. I know I was very, very wrong with that. I must say, I got that really wrong in my thoughts in that fight. And so let's get into it. So Fabio Wardley being the home boy, he was at his beloved Ipswich Football Club. Sorry. And I've been there to watch football matches, and it is a great crowd there and a lovely pitch. But today, or Saturday should I say, was there for boxing. So it was a good start from Fabio Wardley to me. He got down to the business. He was looking for that power shot. He's not much of a boxer, but he does land some menacing punches and some really hurtful punches. Hunini had his chances in that first round, but I'd say the first round I gave that to Fabio Wardley. I thought he'd done the better in that one. Hunini come out in the second round. It was a better round for Hunini, and he showed his amateur background of boxing that Fabio Wardley didn't have, and his hand speed was so impressive from Hunini too. I must say, I was not expecting that, and he was tougher than what I thought, because he took some big shots, and I've seen Fabio put people out with that shot. So you know, round two went to Hunini for me, and it was round three was a big punching round from both. Wardley throwing some big shots, and Hunini took them all, come back with his own. But Fabio was going to the body a lot too, and some vicious body shots from both fighters coming in this fight, which I found that's what. So I will skip through it. So basically, going into round 5, I had it 2-2. And after round 5, Hunini took real good control of that fight. The boxing ability that he had. I've got from round 6. Hunini started to take control of the fight. For me, it was very much the same. And I think them body shots really took the toll on Fabio, let alone the big shots he'd been thrown in that fight. That was, he looked tired, and then at times in that fight, Hunini, he was really bossing it, showing his boxing ability, and landed some vicious shots in them bodies, and both to the face were landing some cracking shots. And Hunini was really taking, like I said, took control of the fight from round 6, and I had it going in round 5 as 2-2, but I'd say from round 5, Hunini won every round. He did run it, I guess, in a way, but he won every round, and it was starting to like a boxing master class and for against Fabio Wardley, and he was looking tired and looking lost at the time. And then Frank Warren goes and has a word with Fabio Wardley, and then round 10, out of nowhere, Fabio Wardley, which you could never, ever, ever write Fabio Wardley off with that power that he carries, and it looked like it died off in the fight. The sting looked like it had gone out of his punches, and it wasn't there. And then he walks onto a great right hand, and down he goes. Now, and he was down, and fair play to Fabio. He dug that punch out of nowhere, and he goes on to knock out Houdini. Now, I did think that was, when I was watching, I thought, well, that got stopped a bit early. I haven't seen the count. I know there's lots of things going around saying about the count. I do think Houdini looked capable of carrying on to fight. But yeah, the ref weighed it off, and Fabio pulled out a knockout punch and went on to win that fight at his home stadium, where a lot of people can come unstuck under their home team, their home football team. And everyone looked a bit shocked when Callum Smith went down too, but he pulled his stoppage out of the fight. But he difference is he was the better fighter in that fight. But going back to Fabio Wardley, yeah, so that was that. And then you had Opitaya, who had a knockout win against another Italian, I believe. He is Italian, the chap. And that was quite a brutal knockout. I don't know much about the fighter that Opitaya had fought. Squio, I think you pronounce his name, Squio. And yeah, it got to round 5, and Opitaya landed it got him in the corner, landed that punch, and the poor fellow's jaw looked like it was hanging off, and he gets his 5th round knockout. So yeah, so it was a quick podcast. There was so much to cover. If I went round by round, it could have been a 3-hour podcast if I watched all of them. So a great weekend for boxing, for all them boxing fans. Where Fabio Wardley is going to go after this, I said it in the last podcast. It'd be interesting to see him and Moses Vatoma get it on. I think that's a really good fight to make, but I believe he'll be going on to challenge for a world title. Now, people were saying Fabio Wardley doesn't deserve this world title shot. Yeah, but what people got to realise is the weaker one of them all, the WBA regular, and when Daniel Dubois lost to Joseph Parker, he went on to win that title, which then he went on to fight Usyk for the main WBA belt, which obviously all the controversies in that. Yes, it was a body shot in my eyes, but Daniel Dubois did quit, and I'll keep saying that. Daniel did quit. Everyone forgets it about it, but they're getting it on again, and we'll cover that another time. So I do believe that Fabio Wardley, and rightly so, if the opportunity's there, you're going to take it. He'll go on and challenge for that WBA regular belt, and hopefully he'll win that fight and become a world champion for all us British fans out there, and see another British world champion. Anyway, thank you for listening again to the show. Please like and subscribe, give us the thumbs up, give all that, and I'll be bringing you more content soon. Thank you.